What is up, guys, and welcome back to another day at Whitley Auto Works. Today we are finally going to get into some painting. I've had tons of questions, good or bad, tons of comments, good or bad, and we're going to get into it. The Rustoleum paint job, which you've all been waiting for, step by step and in depth with pearls. So we are going to do it all today, and I'm going to take you along step by step and show you how it's done. To start off with, you want to prep whatever you're painting. Today I have a Honda Accord Certifit hood that I'm going to be painting. I'm not going to be doing a full car. Unfortunately, I don't have one at this time to show you guys, but the same process applies to a full car. You prep it out first. You want to make sure you clean it real good. You can spray Rustoleum as a paint and primer over it. But if you don't want to get those weird bodywork rings and you're sanding through the metal, I would say, you know, just take your time with it, prime it, sand it down, and do it that way. Now, as far as everything goes with the Rustoleum paint jobs, it will hold up, but with oil-based enamels compared to your waterborne acrylic enamels, what you want to kind of realize is over time, especially I found with colors like gloss black, it will fade if you don't put a clear coat over it. So about a year into your paint job, it will kind of dull off and it almost look like a satin finish almost. I have kind of noticed that with black. I haven't really had that issue with other colors, which is kind of weird, but it's just something I want to note. If you are going to do a Rustoleum paint job, I would highly recommend you throw a clear coat over it. But for $60 spray and go without the clear, you can't beat it. It's a cheap paint job, and that's that. So what I've done with this hood already ahead of time is I Scotch-Brite it. Normally, if you're doing a paint job with this, I would say do your body work, do your primer, get everything ready, wet sand it with 400 before you spray it. But for sake of this video, I am using a Certifit hood. They do come factory primed from wherever they come from. So basically I just scuffed it up with a green Scotch-Brite pad. That way the paint will adhere properly. I'm going to clean it in a few minutes. I'll show you what to use to clean it to minimize the possibility of reactions. And let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. Alright guys, so this is my Certifit hood. Not much to look at. Like I said, I have gone over it with a green Scotch-Brite to scuff it up, that way the paint adheres properly. It has been wrecked right here. I guess it got damaged during shipping. Go figure. Anyways, I'm not putting this on anything, by the way. Just as a disclaimer, this is solely for you guys to learn how to paint Rustoleum. Clean strip prep all. This is what I use to clean everything. It does have a little bit of a smell, but whatever. Clean microfiber rag, non-dyed. Do not use the colored rags. I have had issues with the colors from those cheap rags bleeding out through this into my paint jobs. So use non-dyed microfibers if you want to wipe this, or any other rags that won't shed, whatever else. Your preference, like I said, just make sure it's clean, make sure there's nothing on it, tack rags, any of that stuff. I'm not going to be tack ragging this today because this is, like I said, this is just for demonstration purposes, but all that stuff, this is the time to do it. I'm going to wipe this thing down with Prep All real quick, get it nice and clean, and then we'll move over into the materials we're going to be using today to spray. Moving back over to the material side of things, what I'm going to be using today is everybody's favorite Rustoleum oil-based paint. I'm going to be using acetone to thin it per the can. Some people use lacquer thinner, some people use mineral spirits. You can use anything you want. The advantage of acetone I've found is it's what's specified on the can, guys, and acetone by nature will evaporate a lot quicker than lacquer thinner, mineral spirits, that type of stuff. So that's why I use acetone. I use it to clean everything, especially between paint and primer, between paint and clear. Basically, I just use it for everything. That way I can minimize the cross-contamination and I can minimize reactions I possibly could get. I usually use the Tractor Supply clear with the hardener. I'll put it up. But today I don't have any. I'm going to be using this DUPLICOLor paint shop. It's going to work the same. I'll not be adding the hardener in it. The Tractor Supply clear, guys, it uses a hardener additive. This stuff is straight spray, so I'm going to be putting the pearls in it and straight spraying it. I'm interested to see if I have any reactions or how that goes. It should be fine. I haven't really had any issues with other clear coats. But if you do decide to use the Tractor Supply stuff, which is what I typically recommend for doing this with beginners, like I said, I don't have it today. You get the little pint of hardener. You add that in per the whole gallon. I would say, even if you want to, get 2 pints of that hardener, add it into the gallon, and obviously divide the can up accordingly as you're pouring it in. But yeah, that way you're not gonna hurt anything adding a little more hardener to it. I mean, it's pretty much what it is. It's hardener. It'll harden a little quicker. So don't worry about that. Like I said, we're gonna be using the DUPLICOLor today. It's good to go right out of the can. And that's where I'm at, guys. So let's get some of this mixed up. I'll show you how to mix the Rustoleum, and let's get spraying. All right, so Rustoleum paint. The color I am going to be using today is smoke gray. Now, normally this is lighter. As I said in my previous video, if you haven't watched that, go ahead and check it out. It basically explains automotive paint jobs versus Rustoleum paint jobs, which is better, which is the one you should use, whatever. But this is the color we're using right here, guys. It's a darker gray. What I did is I took a gallon of this and smoke gray and cut it with a quart of gloss black. So you can do this with Rustoleum, it'll give you a little bit of a darker color, but for purposes, let's add some paint to it. And that should be plenty enough for this paint job. Put my lid back on. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see that. We're up to about right there. Rustoleum paint jobs. You want to thin it out with acetone. And typically my rule of thumb with this, guys, is 70% paint, 30% acetone. That's where I'm at with it. You can add a little more acetone if you like to have a little bit thinner for it to spray out a little bit better. I've had people add Japan dryer to it. I'll put a picture up of that. Basically, that's supposed to help it harden a little bit. I've even had people put other hardeners. You can put that callus hardener that comes with the tractor paint. Put that in it, guys, to make it harden a little bit quicker before you do your clear. But regardless, however you want to do it, you can use any of that stuff. Today, we are solely using acetone because this is the basic bare bones minimum. You got $40 for the Rustoleum paint. You got $20 for the acetone. That's $60 paint job. And that's where you're at if you just want to do the paint without the clear. So here we go. This is our 70% paint. Acetone, I'm going to mix this in a separate little cup. That way you can see comparison. Alright, so there we got about, for whatever you do in paint, and you can get you some of these fancy paint cups, guys. It actually has markers on the side of it that tell you how to mix with your mix ratios. I would highly recommend that. If you decide to go to Napa, they do have these there, or you can get them at Lowe's, whatever else. They have them there for like $1 a piece. It's not a big deal. Anyways, that is 1/3 of the amount of paint you're using. So 1/3 of the amount of paint you're using, you want to mix in acetone. I'm gonna pour it in. And just mix it thoroughly, guys. Now I mix this for about a minute or so, and what you're looking for is a kind of run off the stick consistency. That looks pretty good. And see how it's a little drippy? Obviously you don't want to make it too drippy, but if you've ever mixed automotive paint, that's the consistency you want it. You want it to spray good through the gun, and you want to minimize getting orange peel. So the thinner you can spray it and get it and lay it on, the smoother your finish is going to be. Alright, so that's mixed up. Let's put that in the gun, and I'll show you what pressure and everything I spray at, and we'll get to spraying. All right, guys, a little behind the scenes. You see my paint gun, my drill there. Don't pay those no mind. This is my little filtration process. They do these various different ways. I'm sure you probably recognize that little thing right there. This is solely to get water out of the system. I would even recommend you got a drain valve on the bottom of your compressor. Crack that open. Let all the water seep out before you spray, because your absolute worst enemy when you're painting is water. So anyways, that is what I do. I typically spray at 45 PSI, guys. Some people will say less, especially if you're using a LVLP gun. But that's what I spray at. That's what I'm comfortable at. To each their own, to each their preference. So I'm gonna mix some paint up in this gun. We're gonna drain everything of water before I do anything like that, and we'll be ready to spray. Always satisfied putting the paint in the gun. Alright guys, so another key to getting a great paint job with this is your spray consistency. Now all your guns have a throw adjustment, usually at the top, and what this is, when you pull the trigger, it'll let so much paint through. Depending on how you adjust this trigger, you'll have less or more movement in the actual nozzle of the gun, or in the actual trigger of the gun, I should say, that will actually set how much paint gets released how quickly. Now you have another adjustment back here. The second adjustment is typically how much paint you get. So when I pull it, you can turn it, see how it pretty much took all the paint out of it, and as I adjust it, you get more. Your final adjustment is your fan spray, okay? And then this is pretty standard with most paint guns. Some paint guns are more intricate. They have a lot more you can do with them, but you have a fan nozzle. Usually the more you turn it counterclockwise, the wider your spray pattern is. So see how wide that is? If I dial it back, that's how wide it is. Now typically I like to be about 3/4 of the way. So let me turn it all the way, and I'm gonna dial it back a little bit. That right there is typically where I like to be. To each their own. Everybody has a preference, that's for sure. But basically you want to spray where you're comfortable, and then when you apply your coats, you want to paint it, drop about halfway to give you 50% overlap, and then do your next coat. Usually in the opposite direction, or however you want to do it. This is particularly important when you're spraying metallics, because you don't want to get tiger striping, you don't want to get other situations. So, and this applies to both Rustoleum paint and metallic paints and automotive. Not so much with this, it's a solid color, so your cover should be fine. Same thing with automotive paints. If it's a solid color and it doesn't have any metallics or pearls or anything in it, usually you can just lay it on, and they do what you call chasing the wet line. You kind of chase that wet line as you put your coats. You kind of look at an angle and you'll see your coat, and you just kind of chase that wet line, go another pass, another pass, another pass, you know, moving 75% to 50% depending on what color you're using, etc. You just kind of have to play with it, guys. You get your settings dialed in with all of this and do what works best for you. Alright guys, now typically when I'm spraying, what I would do is start on one end. I would do all four corners and get everything sprayed in that way. That way I get all the edges and have that covered. And then I'll start from one side, put a coat on, move 50%, put a coat on, move 50%, and go back and forth, back and forth. Just to kind of show you guys, particularly with the first coat on this, I'm going to start in the middle. That way you can actually see the paint layout. I'm going to move 50%, put my next coat this direction, move 50%, work my way out, and then do the same with the other side. Now, since we are going to be spraying a pearl, I'm not going to be so much chasing the wet line, but you do, like I said, you want to chase the wet line. If you're just doing the Rustoleum and not applying your pearls, you want it, first coat, you want to do very light, because you want it to tack up good. Wait about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what temperature you're spraying in, flash times, etc. And then you want to come back with a medium coat and do that on it. Chase the wet line, and don't stay in one space too long, guys, because you will run it. Do that, and then with your final coat, you can do a little bit thicker. All right, or you can do another mid coat. The big thing with that is, especially with this Rustoleum, is just chase that wet line, guys. Chase that wet line, make sure it all lays out consistent, and you should be good to go. So what I'm gonna do with this is I'm just going for coverage because we are putting a pearl on it. So I'm gonna do light to mid coats. I've done this a million times, and we're just gonna get coverage. Once we got full coverage, we're gonna let this harden up for about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour, just depends on everything. The temperature right now is a little on the cooler side. I think I'm spraying right now about 65, 70 degrees, somewhere in that area. Not too bad. That's actually pretty ideal. I normally would spray between 60 to 85. You can use various hardeners. You can use all kinds of things, thin out your paint more. There's all kinds of tricks you'll learn as you do this over the years. But basically, that's where I'm at with that. And we're going to get to spraying. And obviously, get you a mask. You do not want this stuff in your lungs. All right, another cool little trick. If you just want to blow everything off ahead of time, if you don't trigger all the way to get paint, that's the air nozzle. You can just kind of blow your part off like that real good. And I'm going to throw my mask on and let's get to spraying our. Good for your first coat, guys. Let this dry up and we'll see what we got. Alright, so as you can see, especially on the edges and stuff, and if you see the angle where the light's hitting it, it's very blotchy right now. I mean, that's the way it's going to be, guys, when you first put it on. You can do your coats lighter or heavier. It's all going to be about trial and error and preference, guys. So just kind of see what you want to do with it and go from there. But this is coat 1. I'm probably going to dial the gun to where the spray pattern is a little bit tighter, somewhere in between these two probably. And I'm going to do that chasing the wet line thing. And we'll do coat 2. And that's probably where I'm going to stop with this one. And then I'm going to move on to letting it dry and go with pearls. But you can do however many coats you want, guys. And basically, you just chase that wet line out. So let's get coat 2 on. Take note of how quickly I'm moving, too. That'll help you guys. Alright guys, so now if you are here solely for the Rustoleum paint job part and not for the pearls, this is the finish you can expect. This is after 2 coats and it is very glossy. It looks pretty good. I do have a little bit of trash in it. I am not painting in a paint booth, so just be aware you are going to have a little bit of that to deal with. You can put up filters and stuff in place. Like I said, this is solely for informational purposes. And obviously, if you want to apply a 3rd coat, you can, to just have more substantial coverage and better thickness for long term. But this is how you do a Rustoleum paint job up to this point. Now, let's get into clear coat and pearls. Alright guys, so now the moment a lot of you guys have been waiting for, the pearls. It's the fun part, right? Let me grab some cups. Bam! Gotta love that magic of editing. Anyways, let's put this right here. We only need 1 cup. This is the clear coat I'm using. Mix it up really good. And let's open this bad boy up and see what we got. Alright, Paint Shop Clear. Let's pour this stuff out and see what we got. Alright, that should be enough. I think this stuff's like $30, so not expensive. I mean, you can get the quart sizes and the tractor stuff too, and you have to add the hardeners and stuff like this. This stuff's supposed to be ready to spray right out the get-go, so interesting to see what we can do with it. It is lighter. Let's see, what pearls should we use today, guys? Let's see. You can use this as a base to try and get full coverage. Let's see what it looks like with the orange, guys. Just a disclaimer, I have not done this pearl yet, so we're going to see it for the first time together. Typical rule of thumb is you want to do a bag of this per half gallon. Usually it's 2 bags per gallon. I'm going to do half this bag to simulate putting it in a quart, because that's about what this is. So half a bag to a quart. I don't know if you guys can see that. That is orange. So let's see how this stuff sprays, guys. We're going to learn together today. Put that right there. Load up my gun. And you want to keep this stuff saturated as you're spraying, so it don't separate. So, like I said, keep sloshing your gun around, whatever. Keep it good and saturated. Let's get the spraying. Alright guys, so for applying my pearls, first coat and everything, it's going to be exactly the same as shooting the actual base. I'm going to work from the outside in. Definitely with pearls and flakes and stuff, you need to do that 50% coverage overlap. I am going to dial my gun up a little more, because especially with the first couple of coats of this pearl, you really want to do overlaps. Like I said, you don't want tiger stripes or whatever. So I'm going to throw a first coat on this thing, and I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out, guys. This is going to be a new combination for me. So, mask up, ready to go. So that's how you do a custom pearl paint job, guys. Now, like I said, this is just the hood, but you apply the same principle to the whole exterior of the car. This took about 8 coats to get full consistent coverage, and it is a solid pearl, which is one of the harder pearls to spray. They make what they call interference pearls, or some refer to ghost pearls, where it's just more of a shimmer over top of the paint. So it really depends on what you want to go for. If you wanted to spray this just for a flake or pearl effect, I would highly suggest that you stand way back and just fog it until you get the coverage you want. But this is mainly meant, being a solid pearl, for a full coverage metallic effect as a complete color. And as you saw, we put it over a gray. So the darker the base, the more you'll get it like this. The lighter the base, the more it's going to lighten up. So you kind of have to spray for what you're going for with that. But like I said, this pearl color is KP Pigments brand. If you want to get it, it's called Miami Sunset. It's a beautiful color, really reminiscent of like a 70s Corvette color. It's beautiful, guys. I mean, and just to take a little bit of time, it sprays out. And think of this the same way you would spray a dip. So the whole 8 coats and everything is kind of representative of doing that. As far as pricing goes for this, guys, the clear coat and everything I used was probably about another 60 bucks on top of the 60 bucks. And then you also need the pearl and everything. So plan on spending $150 at least to get you going. Another question I get, can you put automotive clear coat over top of everything? Well, funny story, I ran out of the paint shop clear, so what I ended up having to do was shoot some Nason's multi-panel clear. So it has automotive clear over top of it, as well as the DUPLICOLOR. And I got 0 reactions. So that just goes to show you how versatile Rustoleum paint can be. And you get the Rustoleum, you put a pearl on, you put it in automotive clear, it's going to last just as long as any other automotive paint job, even if some people would consider it to be trash paint. That's going to be it for me today, guys. I appreciate you guys watching everything. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions at all, be sure to drop me a like, drop me a comment, ask me anything. If you happen to see something you want covered on a future episode that I didn't cover in this video, let me know. I'm more than glad to do any videos, guys. I'm trying to grow the channel. If you could share this, and if it helped you, make a comment, guys. Let me know it helped you. I appreciate you guys all for watching, and I hope you have an excellent day. God bless you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video.